Every year we complete our annual OSHA training, which helps us stay compliant as funeral directors. In addition to that, each funeral home is required to provide site training specific to their location. Our new OSHA site training process guide, along with this short video, will help you as you prep for this training.
First, who will lead your training? Will it be the location manager or a team member? It could be a great opportunity for a team member to step into this role.
Next, who receives the training? Well, it's a good rule of thumb to have associates that are exposed to operational risks on a regular basis. Funeral directors for sure, but you may want to have removal assistants or others attend. Your call.
So pick a date that you want to hold this training each year and just make it happen. Lastly, each new hire should be given individual site training within their first 10 days as part of their onboarding. And don't forget about formaldehyde testing too during that time.
So let's get started. First thing you'll be doing is giving your old OSHA book an upgrade. You'll be creating this beautiful
masterpiece.
Well, I really wish it was that easy, but here is the 411. Each location that has a functional prep room or a crematory location will receive 2 OSHA binders with all the pre-labeled tabs. And all you need to do is customize several of the forms, print, and fill. The 13-tabbed administrative binder will be kept in a common office accessible for your team. The smaller binder will be kept in your prep room to stay compliant with OSHA. Once you have this created, the only thing you'll need to do is update the information as it changes. So here's the tools you'll need. To start, go to the portal, Compliance and Training, and then drop down to the OSHA section, which has all of the related OSHA documents that you'll need. There's 6 documents noted with a pencil in your OSHA site training process guide to personalize with your location's information. Print and 3-hole punch the documents, store them in your binder. You notice that some sections won't have related forms, but rather will act as a placeholder for documentation you'll collect later on. State Department of Health visits, formaldehyde testing results, or injury and incident reports. So let's take a moment to walk through the sections. The quick reference guide is a good instructional guide to have at your fingertips if you face a needle stick, chemical exposure, or injury. I recommend that you make a few copies to laminate, post them on your prep room wall, as well as make them accessible in the front pockets of your binder. The OSHA Site Training Process Guide and Training Record helps walk through the steps needed to conduct a location-specific site training and track the attendance. Now your OSHA Compliance Training Record, this will be the single source of truth when it comes to tracking funeral directors' completion of their annual OSHA training. The Emergency Action Plans are a new component of our OSHA safety program, although not new in terms of requirement. All of our facilities are required to have a plan in place and accessible for the staff who work there. For each of your facilities, you fill out a plan with the specifics for that location and share the plans with your teams. Details include emergency contact information, equipment locations such as the main water valve, gas, electricity, along with emergency response procedures for medical, fire, and severe weather emergencies, just to name a few. It's really comprehensive and specific to each of your locations. This is also going to be part of this year's Safety Series requirement training in June. So all full-time associates will be taking a short e-learning to learn more about what's included in the plans and how they can use them in the event of emergency. Once they've taken the training, your specific plan should be shared with your teams to ensure they're familiar with their specifics. Next, if you've ever had someone injured on the job and submit those documents to the proper departments, where can I quickly find those? Those documents land right here. And where do you find those reports? You got it, the portal. When the State Department of Health drops by for a visit, we all know the feeling when the inspector walks in the door. Once they issue their paperwork and you've dealt with any issues, punch and add them here. Formaldehyde testing is required on an annual basis. It should be done anytime you have a prep room ventilation or structural change and within the first 10 days of hiring a new team member who works in the prep room. Once you get the results, punch and add. All associates are to be offered a Hep B vaccination. They can choose to accept or waive it, but they will need to complete a vaccination waiver consent form. Once it's done, you know the drill. Punch and add. Exposure control plan, formaldehyde standard, hazard communication program. You'll just need to personalize these and add them to your corresponding section in your binder. The needle stick injury prevention. Let's have the needle stick talk. There are some proper ways to handle sharps and there's not so proper ways to handle them. So talk amongst yourselves as to best practices in prevention. The NFDA Guide to Selected OSHA Standards. This beautifully crafted 145-page document is a great read. Well, not really, but it'll be a good reference tool to have. It'll be your reference resource for all things OSHA and the source of the information for most of our resource guide. Also make sure that your hazard communication binder, your location should already have 1 or 2 copies, is up to date with all the chemicals that you use at your location, whether it's prep room, cleaning, building maintenance. Each chemical should be represented in this book with a safety data sheet of its own. Next, let's get ready for training day. You'll have a training agenda in the OSHA Site Training Process Guide to help put it together. You should be equipped with a PowerPoint if you want to use it, your completed binders, copies of the agenda with 1 copy that you will keep in the binder to track attendance and record participant signatures. So kicking off the training, have everyone become familiar with the contents of the 2 sets of binders, the OSHA Compliance Resource Guide, the Office and Prep Room versions, and the Hazard Communication binders. Discuss where they'll be located once the training is complete. Use your meeting agenda checkboxes as you go through the training. Familiarize everyone with the following. When it comes to the prep room procedures, does everyone know what we're supposed to do? Receiving the body, ankle tag, thumbprint, setting features, logging information, and documentation. What about the use of chemicals, plastics, cleaning supplies? Do we all know how to properly clean the embalming machine? Has anyone put on capri pants thinking that they're like pants that we wear in public? Or do coveralls really cover all? And if they don't, why do they name them coveralls? Anyway, deep thoughts. Talk about the various prep room supplies. We all use a variety of recipes, favorite fluids. Take some time to share what's working and what's not. What is your ordering and inventory process when it comes to chemicals? Formaldehyde spill kit. Wait, do we have one? Well, if so, where is it? How do we use it? What do we do? We all have sharps containers, but what is our disposal process? Acknowledge that there are alternatives to traditional sharps, and if so, those should be provided. So take a few minutes to review the needle stick prevention document in section 12. Linens, yes, they are the sheets. Do we all know who launders them? How often? Are there any things that we could be doing differently when it comes to that? Types of PPE. Scrubs, gowns, masks, gloves, face shield, foot covers, goggles, head covers. Who orders? There's some times when a respirator is necessary. If you know, you know. So where can I find it, and how do I clean it for the next usage? We all have biohazard containers in our prep room, but are we sure what needs to go in them? How often? Who picks up? What is our process if we need to contact them? Excuse me for a second. Ultimately, the intent is here to get everyone on the same page with the same information. Okay, yeah, I forgot my password. Maybe you could help me. Our equipment helps us to do our job, and when it comes to safety, good working equipment is vital. Cots are a huge part of our job. Whether it's an oversized, regular, portable, or even slide boards, everyone uses them, but are we using them properly, and are there reoccurring issues that need to be addressed? When it comes to our prep room specific equipment like a hydraulic table, ceiling lift, or dressing table, do we know how to operate them safely and efficiently? Again, the intent is to get everyone on the same page. We all love paperwork. You didn't think that we'd get out of this without signing some documents, did you? Well, here's a brief overview of each. The Hep B waiver consent. Your team members need only to complete this form 1 time. The OSHA site training record. This proves that your team completed this training annually. Have each person sign this document at the end of your site training. Used properly, your completed agenda should look a little like this. The OSHA compliance training record. As your funeral directors take their annual OSHA training, which is generally provided through your state association or as an e-learning that you can take from the comfort of your easy chair, have them sign and date this document once the training is completed. To wrap up your training, make sure that you put the bigger binder of the OSHA Compliance Resource Guide and a copy of the Hazard Communication Binder in an accessible spot in your office. Put the OSHA Compliance Resource Guide Prep Room Edition and a second copy of your Hazard Communication Binder in the prep room. Organize and or remove any old paperwork. Remember, it's a good rule of thumb to keep most documents for 3 to 5 years. And then set a date for next year's on-site training. Lastly, there are just a couple additional things that the site training will need to oversee. Funeral director license renewals. The trainer should be the one to collect copies of renewed licenses each year to display at your location for which they provide service to stay in compliance with your state requirement. Updating state and federal employment posters. They're usually sent to each location annually. It's usually just a matter of changing out the documents that they send. Make sure your prep room signage is compliant, visible, and up to date.
Well, that's it. I hope that this training will be beneficial for you and your location, as it was designed to keep us compliant with OSHA and also to build continuity in how we operate. So let me know if you have any questions or need additional information as you work your way through this process. I'm available for your questions. I just want to make sure that you are set up for success.